We're back now on CBS Mornings here at 7:30 as Ukraine surveys the damage from massive Russian attacks all across the country yesterday. Officials are saying at least 19 people were killed. Many lost access to power, to water, to heat in what was the largest Russian attack in months. We're joined now by retired Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster, a CBS News foreign policy and national security contributor, also U.S. National Security Advisor. General, thank you very much for being here. This is a landmass about the size of Texas, and you can see the scope of these Russian attacks. What stood out to you?
Well, Tony, as you mentioned, I mean, it's just the scale of it, right? 84 cruise missiles launched from various locations, about 24 drones, some of these suicide drones provided to the Russians by the Iranians. And the targets were to terrorize the Ukrainian people, to terrorize them with attacks on apartment complexes and at school and busy intersections right at rush hour, but also, as you mentioned, to attack infrastructure, right? To pose the Ukrainians with the prospect of being cold in the winter, right?
Yeah.
And so all of this was meant to affect Ukrainian will in a negative way. But of course, I think it's had the opposite effect, Tony. I mean, I think it's bolstered the will of the Ukrainians to fight for their sovereignty and their freedom.
And they have been fighting. There's an attack on a bridge, which we're going to talk to in a second. But these Russian attacks followed a counteroffensive from Ukraine, which had been having some success. Can we talk about that?
No, yeah, we should talk about this. And it's important because I think the momentum has shifted with this offensive.
And just to guide people here, this is Russian-controlled territory here in the red. And the yellow is where Ukraine has made a push.
That's right. So you have Russia here, you have the Crimean Peninsula here, which is really important. A lot of Russian bases established there after the illegal annexation of Crimea in 2014. And what you see in the yellow is a vast amount of territory, especially here in the north, that has been retaken in recent weeks. By a very successful Ukrainian counteroffensive, a counteroffensive that's integrated some new weapons capabilities, precision fires in particular. But, the Russians are in a really tough spot. I mean, this is about an 850-kilometer-long active front, and you can't be strong everywhere.
Yeah.
So what the Ukrainians did is they determined where the defenses were weak. They penetrated these defenses and turned the Russians out of those prepared defenses and made tremendous gains, 1,200-kilometer gains here. And now they're consolidating some of those gains while they continue smaller scale offensives. But there's a very strategic area down here in Kherson along the Dnieper River because it's critical to Russia controlling the Black Sea coast.
Yeah.
And here you have a very deliberate counteroffensive going on, targeting some of the Russian forces. But what's happened across the front, Tony, is that the Ukrainians have attacked supply depots and ammunition dumps. And so what this does is it puts a premium on resupply from Russia. And this is really the Kerch Strait Bridge context.
Yeah, why that mattered so much.
Absolutely. So if you take out supply depots here and ammunition depots, then you have to throughput supplies along extended lines of supply coming, in this case, out of Russia, across this Kerch Strait Bridge, and into some of the key bases that are on the Crimean Peninsula, where they stockpile supplies and then resupply these forces, which are under increasing pressure from the Ukrainians. And so this is the context of the attack that dropped this bridge here in the Kerch Strait. And then you see this massive, retaliation by the Russians because Putin felt like he had to do something after what he saw was a humiliation of this really great achievement of the Ukrainians to interdict that supply route.
All right, General, let's mosey over to the table because I know Gayle and Nate also have some questions for you. We are about 6 months into the war here, and this is the biggest attack we've seen since the very beginning.
I know, in general, you said the whole purpose is to terrorize the Ukrainian people, mission accomplished. What do you make of Putin's strategy, though? I attack your country, and then he goes on Russian TV yesterday and calls the Ukrainian people terrorists. Yeah. What do you make of this strategy? The Russian people aren't always getting the truth here.
No, they never get the truth, right? I mean, whatever Putin says, the opposite is reality. And I think what you're seeing now are some real cracks within the Russian regime, and I think in Russian popular opinion. It's hard to believe any polls, right, that come out of Russia. If they say, hey, what do you think of Vladimir Putin? What are you going to say, right?
Of course.
He might just disappear, right, if you give the wrong answer. And, of course, it's important to note that inside of Russia now, there are more political prisoners than there were during the height of the Cold War. Wow. In the Russian internal security services, more people than there are in the military. And, of course, what did Putin tell people? Hey, this is going to be easy. Just leave this to me. This is a special military operation.
It'll be done quick.
It'll be done quick. And now they've had tremendous losses, Gayle. I mean, conservative estimates, 65,000 casualties, right? And now he's trying to mobilize 300,000. and you're seeing that a lot of these, he's mobilizing 300,000, but it's 300,000 people trying to flee the country. I mean, they've gone to prisons to recruit 80,000 criminals.
Yeah.
So it's really, I think you're seeing the strains. And we're talking about these massive attacks that just occurred. How many more times can they do that? I mean, there are reports that they're running low on ammunition. They're buying ammo from North Korea. So
President Biden warned that we haven't been this close to Armageddon since the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah.
How concerned should we be about a nuclear attack?
Yeah.
Because it just sounds scary when you use the word nuclear.
Of course it does, Nate. And this is all that Putin's got left, right, is to rattle the nuclear saber. And I think the president's message was unfortunate there because it does kind of play into Putin's hands,
Of
right?
course.
Putin wants to incite fear, and he wants to constrain our support for the Ukrainians who are defending their children. I mean, half of the children in Ukraine are displaced, right? So we see this as a humanitarian catastrophe, but it's also very important from American interests, right? I mean, this is the return of major war to Europe, first time since World War II, right? And if Putin gets an off ramp, which some people talk about, hey, that's a chance for him to look for the next on ramp, which has been his pattern of activity since he took over in the year 2000, right? I mean, he's conducted massive cyber attacks and disinformation, to undermine our democracies. And of course, he invaded Georgia in 2008, invaded Ukraine in 2014. This war's been going on since 2014.
Yeah, the war in Ukraine isn't an easy thing to break down. We appreciate you. That was a master class from General McMaster. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nate. Great to be with all of you. Thank you.